Welcome back, repeaters. Thanks for clicking on this video. Today I'm super excited to share with you this overview of RSD's brand new version 4 Sergeant aluminum bike. This bike is for the 21-22 riding season, and in this version it comes with a beautiful blue colored frame. And as always, they have their awesome head badge. So if you're not familiar with them, RSD stands for Rubber Side Down. They're a local bike manufacturer in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. And this new version 4 of the Sergeant comes in 3 different build kits. So this one is the 27 plus / fat adventure build, as you can tell with the much larger tires and the rigid fork. It also comes with an optional 27 plus build with a 3-inch tires and a suspension fork, or a 29er version also with a suspension fork and some 2.5-inch 29er tires. Now RSD also makes some amazing tie and metal bikes. This is an aluminum frame only affair on the Sergeant, but the middle child and other versions of their bikes come in different materials to your preference, and they do a phenomenal job on all of their frames. Now, this one, as I mentioned, is the adventure build, which is a more fat bike version. It's 27.5 times 4-inch tires set up tubeless, and this awesome rigid fork with plenty of mounting options for fenders, racks, and all your bike packing needs. The versatility of this bike is what RSD calls on their website a Swiss Army knife, and they sure are right about that. So let's look at some of the frame details. On the new version 4 Sergeant, we have external cable routing for all the main components except for the dropper post, which comes in internal on the down tube. They have the really cool head badge that I mentioned before, as well as lots of mounting options also on the rear of the frame on the chainstays here. And of course your water bottle. It can take up to 150 millimeter suspension fork on the other builds, but it recommends 140 mil fork, which I'll get into a little bit later. It has these adjustable sliding dropouts, so that you can change for the wheel preferences that you might be putting into this frame. For example, I know I'm going to be using 27.5 times 2.8-inch tires in the summer, so I might want to adjust my chainstay length. There is, like I said, room for up to a 4-inch tire on a 27.5-inch wheel, or a 3-inch tire on a 29-inch wheel as well. And the hub spacing here, as you might imagine, because of the size of the frame and the width of the frame allowing for the tire clearance, is the Super Boost standard. So it's 157 millimeter hub spacing. Just keep that in mind if you're going to be using a different wheel set. A lot of manufacturers like Da Vinci, for example, use the new Super Boost standard. And finally, another cool feature of this frame is the straight down tube, which essentially lets you run any length of dropper post you choose. The one that I have on my bike is 170 mil drop, just for reference. Now let's talk geometry. On the version 4, it has a slacker head angle than the version 3 did. This one comes in now with 65.5 degrees for the head tube angle, which is plenty slack for a nice aggro hardtail. And it also comes with a shorter 140 mil chainstay if you want to slide it all the way forward, but still gives you that amazing tire clearance. This size large, which I have for my 5'11" height, comes with a 463 millimeter reach and a 74 degree seat tube angle. Finally, let's look at the components. All versions come with the same 12-speed drivetrain. This is a Shimano Dior 12-speed with the micro spline hub, so free hub body I should say. Just be wary about if you're going to be switching wheel sets. Like I said, you need the micro spline free hub. However, the 12-speed Dior does come with the awesome Hyperglide technology, which essentially allows you to shift under power, which is an upgrade from the previous 11-speed drivetrains. And of course, it's got up to a 51-tooth cog at the back there. One thing to note on this bike is that if you were to run it at the 51-tooth cog, which I probably will never do because you get a 30-tooth chainring up at the front, it will potentially rub on the tire in this adventure build format. However, that won't be an issue if you're running the regular 27 plus or 29er version of the bike, and that's just due to the width of the tire making some contact with the chain. However, you can mitigate this if you choose to use the 27.5 adventure build just by putting a spacer, probably a 2mm spacer on the drive side of the crank, and it should be able to mitigate any chain rub on that highest cog should you be going into that level for climbs. There's a race face 32-tooth chainring, narrow wide at the front, and that's mounted up to a race face effect crank at 175mm crank length. In addition to the race face crank, you also get a race face cockpit. Nice wide 780mm bars with, I believe, a 45mm race face stem. All builds get the SRAM Level T hydraulic disc brakes with 80mm rotors. They also all get a through axle on the front and back, which is awesome to see, even with this rigid fork. And they all have the ability to run, as I mentioned before, a dropper post. You can get the KS Lev dropper post for an additional $300, but I opted to just put on a PNW loam dropper with the loam lever. So this is different from what you can get directly from RSD. And finally, as you can imagine, the 27 plus builds, either with the fat tires or the 3-inch tires, come with the 50mm Sunringle Duroc rim set, which are already pre-taped for tubeless setup. And in this version, it comes with these Terrain Cake Eaters 27.5x4, light and tubeless ready, which are also studdable. They do not come with studs, but you can add your own at a later date. After you're done with the winter setup, this is my winter setup, you can grab yourself a fork. This is the Manitou Maddock, 140mm is what is recommended. You can find that on the RSD website as well. My summer option is going to be to take a pair of these 2.8 27.5-inch Maxxis Recon tires, tubeless obviously, and I got them for front and rear. I'm going to put it on there with the Manitou Maddock fork and have an awesome summer rig as well. So I'm very much looking forward to taking this out on the trail. Please stay tuned on my channel for a later video with my first ride impressions. Please feel free to check out RSD's website for more information on different bikes and builds. And thanks for watching this one, guys. Remember, as always, you are what you repeat. Take care.